Hey friends, I want to call out some BS on this social media marketing. There are some things, these little myths that are going on. I just want to clear the air. So if you've been thinking about selling your work or your services online and you want to get your name out there, definitely tune into this. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Genevieve and I'm a writer and a photographer, and I left my corporate job about 7 years ago and haven't looked back since. I help closeted creatives, yeah, you know, the ones who are pretending they're not really artists, but who really are dying to get out of their corporate jobs. Yes, I help them, and maybe it's you, transition into a creative lifestyle. Now we're gonna go back to what I was talking about there being a lot of BS on social media marketing. Number one is that you have to be on all platforms in order to do well. And frankly, this is wrong. I'm just gonna flat out say it. When I first started my journey as a photographer, I was on one platform. It started out as lo.co, and I was posting there pretty frequently. And then I started to transition into Instagram. So I was really only on two platforms, and mind the fact that yes, I was on Facebook, but I wasn't really using it. So I was only on these two platforms, and I was still able to grow my audience and to build a community. So my suggestion is, instead of trying to get on every single social media platform, you don't need to necessarily be on TikTok or Clubhouse or Twitter or just because it's all the rage. Pick a specific platform that you know your audience is on, and one that you know that you're going to be on often. If you don't like the platform, you're likely not gonna post. So definitely pick one and start out and grow that. Myth number two, AKA BS, I'm gonna call out BS number two. It's that you have to post every single day, and not just every single day, but you have to post multiple times a day, and you have to be on all of the platforms, like I said, and that's just not true. So a little anecdote, I've been in Ali Abdaal's PTYA course, which is phenomenal. And one of the things that he mentioned is he noticed that when he was posting every single day, it didn't perform nearly as well when he started just posting several times a week. And another thing is Ali Abdaal he posted twice a week on YouTube. Not every single day, twice a week. What they say about, that you have to post a shit ton in order to get noticed or in order to grow, that's just not true. What I recommend instead is that you find out a routine that really works for you so that you'll be consistent. Consistency is what really matters in social media. It's not about quantity, it's about quality and consistently showing up. Myth number three is that you have to be an expert in order to do well on social media. You don't need to be an expert just to provide value. You can be someone who is learning and you're sharing what you're learning. For example, I know tons of creators who started out their journey because they had a hobby or an interest, and they were like, oh, I want to document my process. And they do that, and wow, lo and behold, in the behind the scenes, everybody loves a good BTS, right? You get to see the action, people get to learn with you, and woo! Amazing, right? It's a hero's journey. Everybody wants to see progress and grow and grow and grow. I mean, why do we take pictures of babies when they're crawling and falling and crawling and falling? Because we like to see progress. You can definitely be sharing your process, what you're learning, and your key takeaways. That progress is so powerful and valuable for people who wanna perhaps try something new, and you're kind of like showing them, hey, maybe it's not that scary. The next two things that I'm gonna call BS on are really more for the people who are resistant towards social media. And the first one is, well, my audience isn't really on social media, or the people who I'm targeting aren't really on social media, so I'm not even gonna bother. And I wanna just say, are you sure about that? Because in October 2020, research shows that the number of social media users surpassed 4 billion. So are you telling me that out of 4 billion people, nobody's looking at what you're looking at? It's kind of hard to believe. I mean, 4 billion is a lot. You don't think one of them cares about the same thing that you do? It only takes really one client for them to then refer and get to know you and start sharing. I mean, it all starts from one. So if you think your audience isn't online, consider checking what social media platforms your particular audience is on. Not all platforms are equal. If you're a writer, likely your tribe of people is gonna be on Twitter. That's where a ton of authors are. If you are a visual artist, getting on Clubhouse is probably not as smart of an idea to show your work in comparison to Instagram, right? So it really does matter where you are on your platforms, and you can find your tribe almost anywhere. And what I'm gonna call major BS on is this idea that being on social media requires you to have a persona. And that's not true at all. Before I use the V word, right? Vulnerability. What did you think I was gonna say? Okay, so before I use that word, what is the point of social media in the first place? I mean, besides getting all of our information collected, but besides that, right? It is about being social. Like, it's about interacting with people, and you're going to kind of tell when you're being fake. So what's the most important thing while you're on social media is actually having conversations, real ones. You're able to connect. And that is ultimately how people do really well on social media. I'm not saying that there are no personas or that people don't do that. I'm saying you don't have to do that. You can be completely yourself. Like I was mentioning earlier, you don't have to be an expert and pretend that you're a know-it-all. Instead of trying to create a persona, be you, because there is no one that can copy you. You are the only one. And that in itself is your uniqueness. Now I'm gonna give a little tough love, and I'm gonna ask you a serious question. Are you really resistant to social media because of all of those reasons that I just mentioned? Or is it because you're scared? You and me both. That's how I started out. I was so afraid to post. And I used to think, well, if I have the right strategy in place, or I have the perfect photos to put, or my writing's perfect, the caption's perfect, and all of this, and I'm, all of these things that I used to try to make sure that it would come out perfect, it stopped me. And that was the biggest BS, was that thinking that I needed to have everything perfect before I started. So I encourage you, instead of trying to outdo the BS of perfectionism, consider this mindset shift, which is progress over perfection. Hey, life's just about learning. On that note, I just want to say, be extraordinary.